All right, I'm going to go live and then I'll be able to share it once we're live. We won't jump in right away yet, just to give you a heads
Alrighty.
up.
Cool. All right, sweet.
All right. So I think we're live now. I'm just going to go to Facebook real quick and share it before we jump right in.
All
So
right, I'll do the same thing.
cool. So yeah, so it's live on the Living Off Rentals page, and I'm just sharing it to the Living Off Rentals group as well. If you're just seeing it, so it'll be live there as well.
Let me see this. Oh, there's my face. Alrighty. Let me just share this one. Boom. All right.
And it's shared to the group. All right. Cool. So, if you're just joining us, let me just give a little bit of an introduction here before we jump right in. So, being a guy in my late 30s, it's not often that I'm seeking advice from people who are 21. But, when I think back to when I was that age, I just compare it to myself and how I kind of lacked the focus and maturity to be able to do the business that I'm doing today. But I've kind of realized over the years that age is, not really important, that it's just really, it is just a number. And I kind of related to when I was in the Army. I spent 11 years serving in the Army, and it was kind of like rank. People assume that, oh, if you're a specific rank, you must have the answers, and a lot of times that wasn't the case. You'd find the answers from the least expected places a lot of times, or least expected people. And our guest today is sort of a testament to this. At the age of 17 years old, as a high school athlete, he made six figures investing in real estate, which is, a lot of people spend their whole lives trying to figure out how they could make six figures. So I'm super excited to talk to him. He's 21 years old now and one of the biggest wholesalers in Southeast Florida, and owns a bunch of rental property as well. So Zach Ginn, welcome to Living Off Rentals.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I'm pumped up for this one.
Yeah, no, I'm super pumped to have you on here, man. I've been following you for a while. I love the stuff you and your dad are both putting out on YouTube, and your podcast as well, Bags to Riches. If you haven't checked that podcast out yet, definitely it's a great one. He has some really great real estate investors on there. So I just want to jump right in and kind of understand how this is possible. I think that's what a lot of people who hear the intro are going to, their first question, how is it possible that you made, six figures in high school, or even invested in real estate in high school? So if you could kind of give us a little bit of your background and how that came to be.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say off the bat, comparison is the thief of joy. If you're 50 years old watching this and you're trying to get into this, don't look at me and say, "Oh my gosh, she did it at 17. I'm a loser." If I look at Mark Zuckerberg, what he did at the age of 25, becoming a billionaire, I would be sad and depressed all day. So it's really how you're comparing other people. So the one thing I want to just tell everyone here is six figures in high school is nice. Everyone here likes to live off rentals, so that's great. But if you gave me $1 million and I bought rental real estate and I made a 10% after everything, I would make 100 grand, and it's all fake. I mean, it's real money, but you can invest that, do it, whatever. The way I'm talking is through real estate wholesaling, a little different. So me investing $1,000 in marketing and making 100,000 is a lot better than most guys actually doing rentals. So if you guys don't understand this, I'm do a lot of real estate wholesaling. That's how I got started. So real estate wholesaling, if you guys don't know that, is simply the art of putting a property under contract, finding a person motivated to sell the property for cash. I'm the guy with the signs that say, "We buy ugly houses that you hate," on the side of the road. I find people that want to sell the property for cash. Usually it needs a lot of repairs. Sometimes they don't have a lot of equity in it. Sometimes they have a lot of equity, and they just want to get rid of the house, whatever reason. Someone like their grandma died and they just want to get rid of it. They're out of state. And I buy it at a deep discount, and then I sell it to a cash buyer. A cash buyer is somebody that just wants to buy the property, maybe flip it. They just watched a Than Merrill seminar, and they want to start flipping properties. They want to buy a bunch of rentals, and they just want to buy something all cash. And I just make little difference in between there, maybe $10,000 to $20,000, and then I wash my hands and I go to the next one. So really what I like to talk about is this is active income. This is completely different than what you guys might be hearing from him about actually having rentals and building wealth. That's a huge part. We have that too. But really this $100,000, this isn't from, grandma's money. I'm a trust fund baby. I'm making that. It's really just from wholesaling real estate.
That's great. Yeah. So how, I guess before we get into wholesaling a little bit more, because on this channel I like to focus as much as possible on the rental side of things, but I realize that there's a lot of people who they don't have the capital to start investing in rental properties, or they have the idea that wholesaling or flipping is the way to get there. So I do want to get into that and see how wholesaling could lead to eventual ownership of rental properties. But before I do, I guess how'd you get started in this? And then also, like, I think back to high school, and a lot of people just like in their day-to-day lives as a working professional, they're like, I don't have time for this. But you were a full-time student in high school. You were a competitive wrestler, from what I understand. And then you also found time to wholesale on the side. So how did you balance that all out?
Yeah, so I also want to include, I'm not the average high school kid. So basically from the age of 16 to 18, I was taking college classes. So in the state of Florida, if you want, it's called dual enrollment. You can take full-time college classes, and then the whole state of Florida basically pays for it. So I only did like 3 hours of schoolwork a week. So that gave me a lot of free time to do a lot of stuff.
Wow.
Just to start everything from the beginning, my dad for the past 18 years has been probably the top real estate wholesaler in my market on the Treasure Coast here in Florida. And basically he quit his corporate job and he started doing that. He saw a seminar and he got really, really good at it. And the only way to get really good at something is just to put your 10,000 hours into it. And that's basically what it takes. So with me, I was working a bag boy job since I was 14 years old. I was basically a full-time bag boy at my local grocery store, and I was bagging groceries, scrubbing toilets, and just cleaning the floors. And I wasn't really the biggest fan of it. Basically, from my entire high school career, that's all I did. I went to school, I bagged groceries basically 35 to 40 hours a week, depending, for minimum wage, and I didn't collect tips. That's another story. And then I was basically a full-time high school wrestler. So I spent most of my time was spent either doing sports, work, or school. And that was it. And I felt like I had no time to do anything else. I felt like I had 10 kids, a family, and I had to do all this stuff. But it really wasn't that difficult. Really, I just found the time. So one day I was just so sick of my job. I had to clean the toilets one day, and I told myself, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is just driving me crazy. If this is what my life is going to be, I see people there, they're 60 years old. They've been with the company for 40 years, and the most they've ever made is $100,000 per year. And that's like top management. And you know the politics of the corporate structure. Like, you're going to have to work your butt off doing that. And I've just seen it. And I see the top guy call him like, hey, you're going to have to work this weekend, put 60, 70 hours a week into it. I saw the writing on the wall. I could make 100 grand probably at the age of 40. That's probably when I'd make it. And that's my ceiling. And that's it. I told myself, I can't do this. It drove me nuts. So I decided I have to make money doing something else. So actually at the age of 16, I started Shopify drop shipping, and I was making like 10 grand a year doing it. I was making more as a bag boy. And so I understood entrepreneurship is probably a good way to start making things, and never really bought any rentals, anything like that. So at 17, I quit the Shopify store and I wanted to get into real estate. I saw what my dad did. He was making a lot of money doing it. He had a check for like $30,000 from a wholesale deal. I'm like, Dad, you got to show me how to do this. Like teach me. And he basically told me, he's like, no. It's like, if you want it bad enough, you'll get it yourself. Like, you'll just figure it out if you want it bad enough. So he didn't really believe. I think he believed in me, but like, he wanted to know, like, if you're serious, go out and do your own deals. At 17, that was a little daunting. So I looked at my bank account. I had about $300 in it. I started watching a bunch of YouTube videos. I took a bunch of books off my dad's shelf, and I realized I had no money to do all these like big budget things. Like, I couldn't do TV ads. I couldn't do anything. And I realized the only money I had to spend was on those We Buy Ugly Houses signs. So I basically spent all my money, basically $300, and I spent it on signs. And I went to my wrestling tournaments on the weekends. And what I would do is just stick those little signs. They were nice. They were white on red, because red and blue were like, they attract your eyes the most. It just says, "We Buy Ugly Houses." So like 772, and they have my phone number on it. And that's what I did. Stuck the 150 out. And 2 weeks later, I got a call from a dude. Actually, it was at my college class. So I was taking my college class. I got a phone number. I was like, "Oh my God, it's from my Google Voice number." I ran out of there. Like, I had all my stuff there. I even had my computer. I ran out of there, and I just answered the call. And the guy's like, "Hey, I saw your sign. I'm moving out of state. My property needs a lot of work, and I can't list this house for 6 months. Like, I just got to get rid of it." And he's like, "Can you meet me at like 2:00?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I got super excited. And then I told my dad, I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to this house at 2:00. I'm so excited for it." And then my dad's like, "You can't sign a contract, right?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? I printed this contract. Like, I'm ready to go." He's like, "You're 17 years old. Like, you legally can't sign a contract." He's like, "I have to go with you and sign the contract. Like, go there, do whatever you want, but like, I'll sign the contract for you. Like, I won't steal this deal from you, but like, you can't do it." And I was like, "Okay." So I went there. I talked to the guy. Basically, I had my dad there. He's like in the corner, like not saying a word. And it's like, it was really weird because like, "Who's this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's my dad." And he's like, "Is he going to talk?" Like, "No, it's me." So I talked to him, just had a conversation with the guy, like built a connection with him, basically what I do. And the property, the Zillow on it was like $120,000. And it needed a lot of repairs. The roof was bad. The foundation was terrible. Like, I know all this stuff now looking back. I didn't know squat about houses. Like, I was like, it's got nice brick. The floor is like regular tile. That's all I knew. So I didn't know what things cost. Like I saw like brown on the ceiling. I'm like, "Oh, that's just whatever." Like, I didn't know. I was like, "Is that paint?" It was really a roof leak, but I didn't know a thing. But I got really lucky. So I talked to the guy. I said, the only thing I knew was I read a couple books about negotiating. And the only thing I knew was don't say the price first. And I took that thing to heart. And so I went to him and said, "Hey, Mr. like John, how much do you need to like get rid of this house for?" And he said, "Hmm." And I knew in my head, I could sell it to a regular slumlord guy for 100 grand. And I was thinking about it. And then I said, "How much do you sell it for?" He said, $60,000. And my mind was like, I was shaking. My palms were starting to sweat. Like, I was twitching. I was like, and then I was about to say, like, scream, like, "Yes, yes, yes, of course. Okay, oh, yeah, let's do it. But me being a little greedy at the time, I said, "Ooh, really? Can you do 55,000?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And it was the easiest like transaction I've ever done. They are never like this. Like, it's never like this. But my first deal ever, it was the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. He goes there, he signs the contract, and then my dad signs it, and then we walk off, and I go call like a bunch of realtors, and they say, "Hey, I got this guy. He's looking for some rental properties. He actually owns one on that street. When's a good time for him to go by?" So I brought him in the house, and he showed me how bad everything was in that property. And I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't going to make $50,000 on it. But he bought it for $80,000, and 80 minus the 55 was $25,000. So at the closing, at the title company, they on the statement, it basically shows we're buying it for $80,000, and I'm getting a $25,000 assignment fee. At the end of the day, I got a check to Zach Ginn for $25,000. Not even in a company name, because I didn't know anything. Personally, in my name, I had to pay the full taxes on it, but Zach Ginn, $25,000. Rest was history. Started scaling up, and that's all she wrote from there.
That is amazing, man. What a testament to just like diving in and not worrying about all the details, just figuring it out. People worry about setting up their LLC and their website and getting, their business card before they can go out and start marketing for deals. You just like put up some bandit signs, which, by the way, I'm a huge proponent of. I think bandit signs are the best form of marketing in the beginning if you have a limited budget. Just like you started, I did the same thing. In the beginning, I'd ride around with a buddy and we'd put up signs, or my wife would drive me around and I'd put up signs. And it's such a great way to get the right type of caller to start calling you, those motivated sellers. So I've got a ebook that I wrote that's 42 pages that explains exactly how to do it. That's available at Living F Rentals. So if you're listening to this and you want to know more about bandit signs, you can download that ebook there. But that's great. I mean, so a couple of questions come up, I guess, as you're explaining this. So was it a challenge in the beginning? I imagine like you're walking into a house and there's this like older dude and he sees a 17-year-old guy. Like, was that a challenge for you in the beginning to get past the age difference, or you just had the confidence and
No,
they just were
I walked in there as Grant Cardone. I knew everything about real estate. I knew I knew everything. I knew the whole street. I knew I acted like I walked in that building. I knew everything. Like I was in this business. I'm a 90-year-old man. I've been selling real estate since 1920. Like I knew everything. And I exuded the confidence, and it worked very well. Usually I was screaming in the inside, but on the outside I was pretty calm, cool, collective. I attribute a lot of it to wrestling, because I did like a lot of like stressful, like I had 5,000 people watching me, like a championship like thing. Like I'm pretty cool and collective on the outside. Inside I was screaming like a little girl. It's confidence.
Yeah.
It's confidence with everything.
You channeled your inner Grant Cardone. That's awesome. Yeah, and getting a deal that goes that smoothly in the beginning could ruin a person, because like without any hair, you just assume that's how they're all going to go from here on out. And but that's great that you're able to pull that off as your first one. It also gives you a lot of confidence too, that you can do it, that it does work. So I was curious. You talked about your dad doing this for a while, that he kind of gave you the gift of not helping you, just said, you got to figure this out. Cause I think that was a gift. I think if he said, yeah, I'll, take you under my wing, and he was the one making the calls and he was the one negotiating the deal and you watched, I don't think you would have got nearly as much out of it. So I think that was awesome. I work with my dad as well in my business. I love it. I think that's, awesome if you can do it. So what's the dynamic for you guys? I know sometimes people who work with family members, it doesn't work out so well. So do you recommend this to other people? And how does your business set up now with your father?
Yeah. So basically 3.5, 4 years later, the way it worked was I kind of kept doing it by myself. I went to college I got a full ride scholarship to just a big public university in my state. And I went there in my dorm room. I was virtually wholesaling. So I was doing the exact same thing, but over the phone, which is a million times harder. But I found a way. I was making the same amount of money just because I was a little better at it. And I decided I could probably double my income if I just came back from school, dropped out. But I didn't drop out. What I did was at the business college I was at, most of the students there took internships out of state. So they made all of the tests online and the lectures online. So I just came back home, started actually doing what I was doing before. And I doubled my income doing that. And I was like, basically going up. And I started like, compete with my dad a little. And basically he's like, if we just like join up, we can make a lot more money. And that's what we did. So basically merged everything. I run his entire operations for him. So he doesn't do anything. He does a lot of the coaching on Flip with Rick, but I do marketing. I go on all the appointments. I do all the wholesale. So like the disposition is not really anything, because I just have someone actually flip it. But really 90% of our deals, we don't wholesale anymore, because as you know, why would I sell it to a guy like you who's trying to make get it for a discount? If I could sell it to Sally Sue, who's getting a Fannie Mae loan on the property or a VA loan, they'll pay me a lot more. So that's what we do. We basically buy all of our properties all cash, and then we just put on the market about a week later, and we turn our $30,000 wholesale fees into $50,000 deals. And it's not sexy. It's not HGTV. I literally only put maybe $1,000 into the rehab. Like I buy it, a week later, it's on the market and it's sold the next couple of weeks. But the dynamics right now is maybe every month or something, I'll tell Rick, I'm like, well, we own these 5 houses right here, and we just sold these 5 houses, and here's the profit. He's like, okay, cool. I trust you. And we go to the next one. It's complete trust. I put my 10,000 hours into this business. like talking to people and just understanding this like business like the back of my hand. So it's a little different working with family, but just from my experience and me being one of the top guys in our market, he trusts me completely on the business, and we're doing well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when it doesn't work out, a lot of times what I hear is one person hasn't put in the time. Like, like a family member comes in, kind of like we talked about before, like they come in under somebody and they're just like kind of given the business, or they just don't have the drive that another family member might have. And so it's the exact same for my dad and I. Like he built custom houses early on. I got out of the Army, I dove into this whole flipping thing, and I figured it out for myself, and then we kind of joined up. And so I think that's when it works really well. That's great. You mentioned your wholesaling model now. I've heard it referred to as wholetailing before. So can you kind of explain? I've done this in a few circumstances, but I am like, I struggle with it because I get into it and I want to make it the HGTV, dream house. So it's like, where do you stop? What are the things that make the most meaningful impact when you're doing just a touch up rehab? And how does this, I guess, how is this different? You mentioned different buyers. What are the different buyers for this too?
Yeah. So basically, wholesaling works is in wholesaling, excuse me, not wholetailing or what you're doing. In wholesaling, there's about 5 to 4 buyers, and they're all tiered, just like commercial real estate, or actually residential, like for multifamily. So on the bottom tier, I'd say they're the worst ones. Those are the slumlords. There's guys in my market, they own 1,000 rentals, and they're all single family houses, and they blow my mind. But they're like, I'm buying this thing for 70 cents on the dollar. I'll pay you $2,000 like assignment fee for this one. And the next tier, they're the guys sort of like you that maybe flip 20 houses a year, and they buy it all cash, and like they know their number. Like they're legit guys. Like they're actually in this business. That's what they do full time. They're true professionals. They'll pay me about 10 grand. Next is the people that maybe flip 2 houses a year, maybe. They like HGTV. They love homes, but they don't like the business, and they'll pay me 15 grand. And then on the tippy top is the guy that just got off a Fan Merrill seminar. He's all pumped up. He just bought a course from whoever has their HGTV show, and they're like, I want to flip real estate. And they pay me about $25,000. And if they put $100,000 into it and they made $8,000 at the end of a 4-month rehab, they are beyond ecstatic. They'll give me a huge hug when they sell the house and say, you're the greatest man ever. I made $8,000 and I just spent $100,000. I made $8,000 and I spent $100,000, and I'll hug you. And I said, I made $25,000 and I spent $500 in marketing. But that's basically where it's at. And then at the tippy top, which wholesalers are almost impossible, is the people that actually live in the property. Now, those people always pay the most. They have no profit incentive at all. But you can't really get them for wholesaling. And in wholetailing, we just take the cream of the crop there and we just put it over. So I'll buy the house for maybe 50 grand. And the real money at this is not flipping it, because again, I always look at everything from an ROI perspective. For me to get a deal, it basically cost me $2,000. And our average deal for wholesaling is $30,000. So the ROI is really good on that, right? And you can scale that up even more and more and more. Now, if I spent the property for $50,000 and I'm going to make an extra $10,000, it makes sense for us to do that. Now, if we put 4 months of that capital to work, and I had to spend the full $100,000 on the rehab and sell it for $180,000, it's beautiful. Like the house looks awesome. It's amazing. Like it's sexy. It's fun. You're in the nitty gritty, but I have to be there probably every week, like stressed out, dealing with contractors, making sure everything goes right, make sure the market stays like good, and something bad could happen. And then I got to put on the market. It stays on the market at least 6 months, and it's like all that capital is just put away. And I'll probably put maybe 150 grand. 150 grand is it's more than a year's of my marketing. So it's not worth it ROI wise. We make a lot more money actually just being a transactional guy. I got to look at the business differently. This is my active income. This isn't my wealth building. So it's completely different. But ROI wise, I got to get it done. So That's the difference. We can do, in the span of 4 months, I can do way more deals making the $30,000 in between there than making the full 60,000 on a 4-month one.
That's really smart that you break out your active from passive activities. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't do that, and they look at it all as just real estate investing, but you really got to have both to have sustainability. So, so can you speak a little bit to how you determine the scope of work then on a wholesale, and what do you tell your contractors to do, and how do you limit the costs?
I don't have a contractor.
Really?
I only spend $1,000. Like I'd go broke doing a contractor. Now we do have contractors on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
The most we've ever spent is $3,000 on a rehab. And basically I look at a house, I'm like, how am I going to get this thing to pass inspection? That's it. Like that's the bare minimum I care about. And usually it's just doing a little bit of cosmetic and just making it okay. Like a lot of these are end home buyers. So maybe if there's tile here, but there's laminate, and the laminate like got wood, like the wood's all rotted and there's water all over it, and I got to replace that and spend $500, I'll do it. Usually I got to replace just some things, maybe just replace a couple like old fans, pay a cleaning lady. That's most of it for me. Usually the most cosmetic I'll do is just maybe replace a vanity in the kitchen, because sometimes the whole like kitchen's screwed up and I got to replace it. But like $3,000 is the most we'll do. Wow. just to make someone go in the house and say, I can live here. Because people are very vain. They're like, I don't like the flooring, honey.
Yeah.
Gosh, but that's it. It's just pass an inspection, and that's it. It's all affordable housing. Like I'm not buying $800,000 homes here. In our market, $200,000 is the most.
And so, like mechanical wise, you never touch mechanical. Like if a furnace was out when you're buying the property,
we don't have furnaces.
All right, let me convert this to Florida language. Yeah. So, well, what about plumbing, like, or electrical? Like, you never get into any of the.
I just bought a house. The electrical panel was from 1954. And it was a mess. And I looked at it. I'm like, I'm not touching an electrical panel.
Yeah,
I ain't doing that. I'm good at sales, and that's what I'm going to do. So I paid an electrical guy to replace the whole panel because it
you did?
Really needed it. Yeah. So they're technically contractors, but I mean, they won't get more than $1,000 from me. Yeah. And I shop them pretty well too. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I should probably, it probably would have actually saved me a lot of headache to wholesale some more and not try to flip them over the years. But that was always our struggle, is we couldn't, we'd get into it and we'd be like, well, let's do a little bit more, and eventually you're just rehabbing the whole thing. But the buyer, like you mentioned, the thing I realized is the buyer is so different too. Like once you start to rehab a property, and you're selling it to a retail buyer and they're buying a rehab property, now they expect everything to be rehabbed. I mean, even if you have a furnace that works, mm-hmm. And it's sitting next to everything else is brand new, but it's a little bit older, say it's 10 years old, they come in, the buyer comes in, they're like, well, I want a new furnace. It doesn't matter that it works. It's not brand new like the rest of the house. So I think it's smart to, tell people up front, it's not a perfect house. It's going to need some work, but they're still going to pay more than your average investor would pay. So that's great. So how do you evaluate a good wholesale deal? Like what are the parameters that you're looking at? I know you mentioned your average return is about $30,000, which is amazing. But
it's like 40 for a wholesale, 25 for a wholesale. So I just mix them. 30,000 is the average deal.
Got it. And is that all you're looking at? I mean, are you looking at specific types of houses? Are you looking, what are the parameters typically that you dive into?
Yeah. So wholesaling full-time in my market, there's only 3 guys. Our market's about 300,000, more or less. There's only 3 guys that do it full-time. There's probably 100 guys that watch a video like this and say, I'm going to do it too. And they fail because they don't know how to market. They pick the wrong houses. They go for the nicest houses in the world and say, if Zach's buying everything for 60 cents off the dollar, then what if at 200,000, why don't I go to $1 million house and try to do the same? Mm-hmm. It ain't going to work. It's not going to work. So we very specific. we have a specific price market that we do. You probably know this, you'll be shocked at the amount of data that some of these data collection companies have on you. Like some of these data companies, if I pulled something on you, it'll tell you the value of your house. It'll tell you everything I know about the house. It'll tell you how much money you make per year. They guess, tell your religion, how many kids you have. Like, it's amazing what these data companies have on people. And we just buy that data from them, and we get a full roll list, and we say, okay, houses between 220,000 to 204 and below, single family houses, 3 bedrooms or below, or 4 bedrooms or below, and the person had owned the house for at least whatever years, and they have at least 60% equity in the property. And then you'll do something like that. Our other marketing list that we find the properties is on like specific, like little niches. So you've probably dealt with code enforcement before, right?
Oh yeah, I love code enforcement.
So code enforcement actually keeps a list of every single property in the city or county that has an active code violation on it. Either the grass is too high, or the roof is caving in or something. And most of the time people don't like cut the grass is because they don't have enough money to actually do it. Maybe the lawnmower broke, they have no money, they got to get rid of the property, and it's a motivating factor. So what I do is I get the code like enforcement active case list from the local city, and they fight me tooth and nail for it. But basically I tell them I'm a taxpayer, it's my public information, you need to give it to me, and they do it. We can pull water shutoff lists. We can't do it with COVID right now because they're stopping that. But you do that, and then we can actually do absentee owners. So one of the most deals I've gotten in Florida is because you can't evict people right now with this whole COVID because of our lovely governor. You can't you can't evict people. And I have a lot of these people that sort of like you, but like they have no knowledge on rentals. Maybe they inherited a rental and they have like a felon living in the house, and they're trashing the house and they're destroying it, and they're not paying any money, and they're losing all this money. I'll go in and just buy the house with the actual tenant in there and kick them out and make a pretty good profit on that one. A lot of the deals I do is from people owning rentals. They go in there and say, this is going to be easy. You know, I'm going to buy a house. There's going to be no expenses. Vacancy's not real. I'm just going to get paid the full Zillow rental value, and there's going to be no repairs. And they're not going to call me at 2 a.m. on a Sunday because the toilet's clogged. So ask me how I know about that. It's annoying. But I buy a lot of properties from people that go into buying rentals and they're way over their heads. Like they're like, I thought I was going to live in Minnesota for the rest of my life, but you know, I got married and she wants to move to Puerto Rico, and now I have this rental and it's going to be out of state, and I got to get rid of it. So specific lists like that, we like to go out, and that's how we do a lot of our marketing.
Nice. And then in terms of the actual house, so as long as it's kind of in that, you know, $100,000 to $200,000 price range, that's kind of your ideal target.
Yeah. This year I bought a house, 492 square feet, 1-1, built in like 1945, because that's what they used to live in back then. And I made like $2,000 on a thing. And then I just recently sold a property, 3,000 square feet, model home, 5 bedrooms galore, and bought that house too. So like it's all in between,
Yeah.
But I like to keep it to a pretty niched out price range.
Yeah. But if is there a certain threshold where it's not worth your time, or as long as you can make a few $1,000, you'll still do the deal?
Yeah. So we don't purchase anything unless we know we're going to make at least $35,000 on a wholesale.
Wow.
So we're not closing unless we're making $35,000. And I don't like to put anything under contract if I'm actually not going to give a buyer for them. Most guys in my market, just because they haven't been in the business 17 years or they haven't put their 10,000 hours in like me, if they make $5,000 per month, they are over the moon. Mm-hmm. They are like they're going crazy. Me, I don't really get excited at a $50,000 deal anymore, or $20,000. It's really just trying to get the volume up and ramping that up even more and more. But wholesale, I'll do anything to make a buck. Buying it has to be at least 35.
Yeah, got it. Okay,
I'm not losing money.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good lesson in there too for people, in terms of, you know, they might hear that and say, well, that's kind of greedy to want that much money, but it's actually, it's smart to set parameters and say, this is what my time's worth, not just like, and this is where the risk tolerance is for me as well. It's not just like, I'm going to go after anything that'll make money, because you're going to have more opportunities than you have time for. So if you can limit it and say, here's my threshold, and just pursue those ones that make the most sense monetarily, then it frees up so much more time to go after those properties, as opposed to, you don't have the time to go after those because you're dealing with these properties that are making you $500 or $1,000, and it's eating up all your time. So that makes a lot of sense. I guess what are you doing with the funds? I read, I think that you're investing in some rentals now as well. Do you own rental property, or I guess once you make the active money, are you investing it for passive long-term gains
Okay.
as well?
So this is going to be completely new to a lot of these people. So if you're interested in actually wholesaling real estate, this is where I'd stop. Now, the way I'm putting my money in is completely like on the contrary to most people, but it's in real estate. So if you're just interested in buying rentals and wholesaling real estate, that is 99% of the people. You will do extremely well doing that, because you're going to buy your properties at a discount and then rent them out. Now, you got to know which ones are the right rentals or not. Again, be very careful. This is why you listen to this man right there on buying right rentals. But for me, we do own rentals, but they are all creative finance. So mostly they're buying subject to, or they're lease options. So that's where we put a lot of our money that we make on the profit. Again, we try to make more money on the money. But have you heard of creative finance before?
Oh yeah. I think it's super smart, especially when you're just getting started too, for a lot of people, and they don't have any capital at all. Maybe you could give a little bit of an overview on those two strategies.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too complicated with you
Yeah.
guys here, but basically the way we do it, this is an overall thing. I hate to rag on rental guys, but you'll buy a house for 100 grand, it'll rent for 1,000, the appreciation and everything, let's say you make 14, 15%. That's awesome. You're better than 99% of every single person investing their money. Me, I'm a little crazy. I'm like, 15? What about 50? So our subject to, basically what we do is we spend about $5,000 on it, maybe 15 to 20,000. But on average, about $7,000 we'll spend taking over someone's mortgage, and we'll make about $7,000 in profit with equity buildup. So we're making 100% ROI on all these properties. So
Wow.
let me explain it. So real estate, everyone knows the regular Joe Schmo way. Again, I'm not a lawyer, not a CPA. Please don't take my advice to heart. Please always research everything I say. But most people know you buy property, you sell property, it's finite. When you sell a property for 100 grand, they pay the entire thing and mortgage it up. Or you have to list the property, it's sold with a realtor, it's all nice. The way that you can buy things with creative finance is, let's say you have a mortgage for $100,000 and you're paying $500 in rent. $500 for your mortgage. Now, those numbers are all screwed up, but those are easy numbers in my head I can think of. So let's say the real estate market goes down now and your house is now worth $90,000. Are you going to go list the property now for $90,000 and owe 10 grand at the table?
I hope not.
No. Let's just say you're making $50,000 now, and then you got a $100,000 job in San Diego. What are you going to do? Are you going to just eat the 10 grand? That's a big situation people have. You might think in your head, some of your old school real estate guys, do a short sale, do a short sale. Short sales are going to ruin your credit. It's a painful process, and it takes months and months and months to deal with that. So you don't want to spend the 10 grand, because that's a lot of money to a guy making $50,000 a year. What do you do? What I come in with a lot of these people is the thing's worth 100. The thing's worth 90. They owe 100. They're paying the 500. I say this, hey, John, why don't I just give you $7,000 for the property? Basically, I'm buying it for $107,000, and the thing's worth 90,000. How does that sound? Oh my God, that's amazing. A realtor said I'd sell this for 100. There's a catch to this. You got to help me out with one thing. He's like, what is it? You're going to give me 107,000 for this? I'm going to walk away with 7,000. I'm going to need payments on this. He says, what do you mean payments? The way I explained it is, I'm basically buying your property, but I'm also buying it with the mortgage in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the deed over to the property. The debt's still in your name, and I just take over your payments. And let's say, God forbid, I stop paying you. You take the property over with all the equity I built up. How does that sound? You can move to San Diego, have the beach and whatever. And they're like, So I walk away with $7,000, and let's say you stop paying me. Let's say you stop paying me after 5 years, and the thing's worth 130,000, and now it's only owed 70. I won't make 50. Yeah, okay, deal. So what I do is I explain to him, since I'm giving the $7,000 and I'm taking over your mortgage, like the property's not yours anymore. Like I'm paying everything. It's yours if I stop paying you. But what I do is I just bring a renter in there, or I'll bring in another person and sell that property. I'll sell that with creative finance. So maybe it's a guy that can't get a mortgage and he wants to own the American dream. I'll sell that property for him for $120,000. He'll give me an $8,000 down payment, and then he's gonna pay with the creative finance arbitrage maybe $1,000 for this mortgage, because you can actually bump it up a little more. And what I do is now I didn't spend any money. I make $1,000 in the beginning, make $500 per month in monthly cash flow, and then at the end of it, he's buying it for 120, and I got it for 107. So now I don't pay any money. But if I wanted to own it as a rental, I could just buy it for 70 grand, have a renter in there at maybe 1,100, no, 800 to 1,000, and I make cash flow in between there, and the ROI is like 100%.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's complicated. I'm telling you, it's advanced.
It's advanced. Great. It's a great strategy if you're willing to put in a little bit of time. There's a book actually that kind of breaks it down. I'm reading this right now. It's
Invest in Debt.
Invest in Debt. Jimmy Napier. It's an old school book, but
it's complicated.
Yeah, but he kind of breaks it down.
I got to read it like twice. Like I got to read a chapter twice.
Yeah, and you got a degree in finance. Yeah, so I mean, that's one that people can check out, because I think that was an awesome overview, because it kind of explains how, it solves problems for a lot of different people, and then you get paid in the middle for solving these problems. Basically, is the way it works, to simplify it. But if you can understand it and start to visualize this when you're meeting with sellers, it opens up that toolbox to be able to take down a lot more deals that wouldn't otherwise make sense. So I appreciate you breaking that down for this community here.
But you need to understand this. Like, most guys aren't like that example I just said. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very small portion of America that are just like that. There's plenty to do that with, but you got it. You can't go to a guy, the thing's worth 100 and he owes 50,000 on it. Like that, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
I just gotta say that real quick. Like it's a small niche in real estate.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people don't want to, sign over their mortgage, because they technically are still on the hook. Their credit could be impacted if you don't make the payments, but if they're motivated enough, it makes sense. So,
and you put something in place like, hey, if I stop paying you, not in Florida, but you can do a performance deed where like, hey, you got second right on this. If I stop paying, the deed automatically switches over.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually just bought one subject to not too long ago, and kind of had that agreement in place. So, and there was a level of trust between us. Obviously, a lot of rapport had been built and stuff like that. Trust. So, yeah. Complete. Yeah. So, I know we're getting kind of coming up on time here. I've got two more questions for you. I'm always interested. Most of my guests are a bit older than you, and I'm always interested what their goal is. And a lot of people, it's like, I want to retire in 5 years or 10 years or whatever. And so they're accumulating this portfolio. And so for you, like, if you wanted to retire in 5 years, it's like when your colleagues are graduating college, and, that'd be pretty crazy to be retired at 25. So, but what's your, like, how do you envision this? Cause you've got such a longer, runway than a lot of people have in this business. So what's your ultimate goal in doing this?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't work. I don't have a job. I'm basically unemployed. So That's the way you sort of have to look. I do own a corporation, but like, I don't have a job. Like, why do I want to retire if I don't have a job? Let's say you got paid to play video games like all day of the week. Like, are you gonna stop playing video games? No. What if I got paid to watch like professional football? I'm not going to stop doing it. It's just something I'd like to do, and it's fun. Like buying properties and then reselling, it's like a little game to me. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's always a challenge. And there's always new levels to this. So I do enjoy that. Really, my goal is just to keep scaling the operation that we have now and make more and more money, of course. Money's not the ultimate goal for me on this, but I do help a lot of people and I do enjoy it. Another goal I've kind of been working on recently too is just helping people learn this, because there's not, I think maybe there's four, and I have all their personal cell phone numbers that make the amount of money I do in real estate wholesaling at like that are 21 or younger. It's a very, very small niche, but there's only about 4 or 5, but there's about 100 to 200 people selling courses on how to do what you do under the age of 21. So I decided I want to stop like all those games, like, hey, give me a $5,000 course and I'll teach you everything. I said, I don't like that. Like when I started, nobody would go on a YouTube and just like go on a live and just answer all my questions and just help me out. Like no strings attached, like just want to help. That's kind of the personality I am. I love volunteering and stuff. So I just made a YouTube channel. It's called Flip with Rick. But basically what I do is I just have a camera guy follow me, usually my dad or like someone. And I just basically document what I did. So I think it's today. I'm releasing a video. I made $50,000 on the deal. I basically show you like, hey, this is the property. This is how much I spent in the rehab, and that's it. Like it's simple as that. So my goal is just to help as many people as possible. That the growth in that channel has been unbelievable. How many people we've helped. Helped a couple guys get a couple like $50,000 deals. Some guys make it full time now, helping them out. So my real goal is just to keep scaling the operation there and help as many people as possible.
That's great. That's life-changing. I mean, you help a person make $50,000 who, is barely scraping by, and that totally changes their life. So that's admirable. That's awesome. So last question here. I've got a niece, Sydney, who's 19 years old. She's starting her sophomore year of college right now. And I'm going to send her this episode because I'd love to introduce her to ideas outside of the normal path that most kids follow. So what piece of advice would you have for her or someone like her who's, that age, who's just starting out? Maybe they're in college and they're trying to figure out what they want to do, or maybe they've heard of real estate investing and they, are interested in it. What's the best piece of advice you got for them?
Yeah. Where does she live?
She is going to Iowa State. So she's
Iowa
from
is
Chicago.
an amazing market.
Yeah.
Iowa's an amazing market. What I can tell you is you got to figure out what you want. A lot of people are going to tell you what to do. Honestly, I'm a weird person. I don't want to work a corporate job. I don't want to be that guy. It's just not who I am. I want to have a family, kids. I'm not going to be able to spend the time I want with them. If I worked a 9-to-5 job, and honestly, if I do the full 401k route, I'd probably go crazy. So I'm very weird. If you're that type of guy or gal that's entrepreneur minded, I say you 100% go for it. If you're under the age of like, I would say 40 or 30 with no kids, no debt, that the world's your oyster. Go do it. Like risk it. Like you will never regret taking a risk. Maybe if you like did a huge loan, but if like there's very few businesses that you can do to make a lot of money and with relatively little money. This isn't a big like fad. Wholesaling's been going on for hundreds of years. What it takes is hard work and dedication. I put my 10,000 hours in, and now I can literally, if you take all my money from me, I can easily make it back in 1 to 2 years just because of what's in my head. So the only thing I can tell you is if you're interested in real estate, go check me out. I love to help everyone out. But if you don't know what career you want to do in life, go seek out, try as many things as possible, and see what your real passion is. Turns out my passion is making money, helping people, and not working a corporate job. So it completely changed the game. After I got my first deal, that passion really grew for me. And that's it, guys. So if you're young, go try it. Try everything, man. Try everything. The only advice I can give to anyone is don't go to college in debt. Just don't do it. Go to your local community college if you have to. Don't get any debt at all, unless it's real estate leverage. But that's a completely different thing. I can go to a private university, get $200,000 in debt. But if I got $200,000 in debt and bought a rental property at 3% down payment, you have an asset, not a liability. So don't go into debt. Go try everything. See what works. See what you like, and live life to your fullest.
I love it. And that I agree with that. Don't go into debt. And one thing that stood out to me when you were talking there too is you mentioned that if all this went away tomorrow, like all the money that you've made, you can just remake it all, because it's all in, you know, up in your head now. You've put in the time, you understand it now. And I think that's incredibly powerful, more powerful than a lot of people realize, because a lot of people come out of college, they kind of, you know, are trying to find a job, and they don't have that, that knowledge that they know that if they get fired tomorrow, they can just make it again somewhere else because they've mastered something. So I think having that mastery over a skill like this, where, you know, it can be extremely lucrative, I think that empowers people, you know, to, at 21 years old, you know, you don't sound like a typical 21-year-old. And I think a lot of that comes from that knowledge that you've got, that you've accumulated over the years. So that's incredible. I really appreciate you spending the time today. And I know it's added a lot of value to this community and the people who are going to watch and listen to this. So, so the best place, if people want to start working with you, is it just going to Flip with Rick to get started?
Yeah, I do at Flip with Rick. I got a personal channel, but that's a little different. It's more of an entrepreneurship. That's not really real estate specific, real estate investing specific. So just do Flip with Rick. That's basically it. I got a YouTube, Instagram. I just try to help people. I don't sell, like, we do sell courses on there, but like I don't promote it.
Yeah.
I want to help as many people as possible and just give value, because it's giving value. Whatever you give out comes back 5 times in return, and you never have to ask for it. That's all I love to do.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again for spending the time today. And it's great to talk to you, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.